Hi you guys, it's Dr. BT, and I want to talk to you about putting your poster together. So you're going to take all of your information and you are going to transcribe it into a poster. So we have some poster requirements, which we see here. And the poster requirements, hold on one second. Why do a poster? It's quick and succinct. We're going to summarize everything. We're going to pick a poster template, and then on your poster template, you are going to put the things you did. So you're going to have a brief introduction. You're going to put what the purpose of the poster was and if there was a problem. So if a problem triggered you to do this poster, such as irregular blood sugar during school or during school hours with kids, or decreased breastfeeding due to pacifier use. Those are problems. And then the purpose is to clarify and to seek information for what the problem is. The conceptual framework, you're going to use one of your EBP models. And I'm just going to click back here and show you where your EBP models are. You go to modules, and then you come on down, and we're going to look at our first module that we covered, and our EBP models were there. And so when we look at our EBP models, we are going to see that we use evidence-based practice, and we have to look at the types of models that there are. So we go on down and we can see there's several models. There's the Stettler model, the Iowa model, the A-star model, the Melnick and Fine-Out Overholt model. All of these models are very similar, whereas you can see here's the Stettler. And in phase one, you're preparing and you're identifying some type of problem. And then in phase, and then you're going to look and define the purpose of why you're doing this search. And then you can see validation is 2. We critique and use a synopsis and look at all the information. Phase 3 is compare, evaluate, and make a decision based on the information we found. 4 is we translate it into application of how we can use this. And then 5 is we evaluate what's going on. Here's another one. This one is, this is the Stettler, but it kind of goes into all the phases and tells you how they go. This one is the Iowa model, and people really like this one because this one is like a problem, triggers you to want to find out the information. And then or knowledge says, you know, what could we do better? And then it says, is there a topic priority for this organization? And of course, this is what you're going to be doing as a nurse. And you say, yeah, it's a problem. So we need to look at the literature, and we need to critique the literature and research it. And we find, is there a base to make a change? And if there is a base to make, then we evaluate, we do a full literature review, we look and see what type of change there that needs to be made. Is there enough evidence to support the change? And then we change to the appropriate adaptation and practice. So the Iowa model is absolutely an easy to follow, awesome one. Now the A-star model, people like this one too. And the A-star model just says, the first step is discovery and research and find out what's going on and what's out there regarding your question. 2 is you find your evidence, you go to the literature, you find everything you're going to need, and then you summarize it. 3, you translate it to a guideline. And then 4, we integrate it into our practice. And so we use the evidence-based information and we integrate it into our nursing practice. And then 4, we evaluate it. 5, excuse me, we evaluate the process. So you guys, you're going to have to pick one of these models for your poster because that's one of the requirements, is to say which model are we following. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to getting everything started for our poster. So we will, go back. So go back to modules, And we're going to put it all together, bringing it all together. So we're going to, oh yeah, there's where we were. We are going to pick our conceptual framework, one of the EBP models, and then the methods. You're going to make a little section, a little summary of the methods, what you did. And what you did was you did a literature review and you found a lot of information out through the literature. Then there's a methods for results or findings, and you're going to put, what did the literature say? You're going to have another column for your conclusions and implications for practice. So the evidence showed you that the current practice is fine, so we would keep that, or the evidence showed you that the current practice is not evidence-based and we need to change it. And how would we make those changes? So here you can see, here's one of the posters, and I just picked any one, and you guys put your name up here. And here is your title. And then you can put the introduction about your topic. You can put your problem statement here. You can put a little introduction about what's going on and why you picked it, or what's going on in the community. You can put your problem statement and what is the purpose of this poster: to educate, to evaluate the evidence. What is the purpose? And then you can put your PICO question here. And then down here, you're going to put your conceptual model that we just talked about. Your methods are actually what you did. So you guys did literature reviews. So you're going to say what you did in the literature review. What were your search titles or topics? What were your keywords or your mesh terms? And which databases did you search? How many did it yield? How many primary how many articles did you get? Did you get some systematic reviews? What happened? And then your results are going to be what the actual authors said. So we got a systematic review that recommends, I don't know, exclusive breastfeeding over non-nutritive sucking or pacifier use. You had 2 or 3 primary articles and what they found. And if you have any charts or pictures that you want to put. And then your conclusion and your discussion. So what did you find? Like, very concisely, that use of pacifiers is, I don't know what actually the literature is going to say for y'all's, but I can assume that it will say that the use of pacifiers is not recommended for exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months. So you can say that there. And then a discussion, well, you may only want to use the pacifier for circumcision, or you may only want to use the pacifier for something else. Recommendations for practice would be limit the use of pacifiers, or whatever it may be. Your limitations would be if you don't have a systematic review, if you had very little research, if your research is old, anything at all like that, that was a limitation that you felt like your poster has. And then your references. Now, if you have a lot of information and you're trying to be very succinct and fit all this information on here, you can always put references available on request, and then have a page that has your references on it. Okay, so now you can see this. I'm going to show you one of the posters that was done. And this was folic acid supplementation prior to pregnancy and the prevention of neurotube defects. And so I did not make them have, I've made a couple little changes since this poster, but I did not make them have a conceptual framework, and I want you to have a conceptual framework down here. So they had a brief introduction about neurotube defects, and then they said the purpose of the literature review was to assess the following PICO question. So that was their purpose, to see what information was given about the PICO question. So the methods were, they told us where they looked. They looked at scholarly articles. They told us all the databases and the search terms. They told us the articles were excluded if they had not been peer-reviewed, they were not in English, they were over 10 years, and there was not a focus on administration of folic acid or folate. It talks about the articles range, so how many level 1s, 2s, 3s, and such that they got. And then now they tell you their results. So their results were, and they summarized their, here is their USP STF clinical practice guideline, and that it's a meta-analysis, and it's been supported. So it's a level 1, but it was supported by level 2 and level 3 evidence and a systematic review. And here are their primaries that say what the literature said they should do. And then here was their discussion and conclusion, where it said the evidence gathered was unidirectional and became common practice to administer folic acid supplementation. Like, it is like universal. So there was not a whole lot of discussion because everything pointed to that you need to do this. They talked about future research. What needs to be done should be focused on outreach to communities with higher rates of neurotube defects and education regarding importance of folic acid implementation prior to the duration of pregnancy. And they showed their little USPSTF clinical practice guideline here. And then they had enough room for references. But again, you're going to put your conceptual model here. And if you have any limitations and recommendations for practice, you need to put it here. So it'll say discussion and conclusion, recommendation for practice, limitation. You can put no limitations there. So this is a good one just to kind of look at, but you're going to have a little bit more material on yours. And again, if you run a little long, you can take the references off and have an additional sheet, which is a reference sheet for that you could give people. If you have questions, let me know. This is very concise. So you guys, when you do your poster presentation, there are 4 of you. You will quickly go through each of the sections, and it should be no longer than 7 minutes. So roughly, you guys all have 1.5 minutes per person. I'm hoping that you can take these posters and use them for other presentations, not just my class, but other presentations to add to your resume. And I hope that this gives you an idea about how to do posters and how to succinctly provide information from a literature review. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much, Dr. BT.